All right, we call the March 26th Facilities Committee meeting of the Keystone Central School Board to order. And we have a relatively short agenda today, only a few items. And the main item is we have our team from McClure with us today to give us a presentation on solar energy. I know we had talked to Alyssa, I think back in January or sometime, a couple months ago, about filling us in on what the possibilities are for solar. So I know you brought your whole group with you, so I will let you take over from here. And if you guys just speak into the mic whenever you're, and there is also a hand
or whatever, it's easier at the table.
There's also, yeah, there's also a handheld mic there too. But as long as you talk into that mic, then the folks at home can see it too, so, or hear you say and see you. All right, it's all yours.
All right. Well, can everyone hear me okay? Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name's Alyssa Wingenfield. I'm an engineer with McClure Company. Been with them for 17 years. With me today is Tom Endo. He is one of our solar engineers, as well as Dip Smith, also another solar engineer. So in front of you, I gave you a presentation. We're going to walk through it. But again, thanks for having us. If you have questions throughout, feel free to flag me down. We'll answer the question while it's still fresh in your mind. We'll also leave some time at the end.
Yeah, just I guess as a point of clarification, we requested that McClure come up and give us a demo of the solar. I think for you haven't heard of any of this yet before, but this was a requested earlier facilities meeting. It's taken us a month or two to get all the information together and get everybody here. So we thank you for coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so if you want to turn to slide 2 of your handout, McClure has been around for 71 years. We're headquartered in Harrisburg, and we have offices throughout the state, including State College. What we do is turnkey energy projects for school districts, and you'll see all the little red circles around the state are all of our past projects. Slide 3, we were lucky enough to work with the district in the past on energy project. Starting in 2020, we did $11.9 million of projects. Most specifically, the largest portion of this project was the middle school HVAC and ROB HVAC upgrades. In 2021, we did a second phase for the district focused at the Bucktail campus. So overall, these projects cost the district about $16 million, but looking to save the district $19.8 million over the next 20 years. So very thankful to be a partner to this point and look forward to potential future partnerships. So if you want to turn to slide 4, I'll give you a quick background on solar. So solar for schools have been becoming more and more popular for 3 reasons. 1, the cost of panels are down. 2, electricity rates continue to increase. And 3 are the state and federal incentives that are available, as well as utility incentives. The most recent incentive that came out with Biden's Inflation Reduction Act was a 30% tax credit. In the past, school districts weren't eligible for this tax credit. So in most cases, they would lease solar array systems from a private company, and that company would pass along the tax credit, reducing the install cost that 30%. Now the IRS came out with what's called a direct pay option, which allows school districts to get that tax credit directly. So when we talk solar, districts really have 2 options. The first is to buy the system up front, pocket that 30% tax credit, and either pay cash or take out a bond over the term and get that solar array built and start to see benefit from it. The second option is they can lease it from a company like McClure. The lease is a minimum of 5 years. That's what the IRS says you need to lease it for in order to be eligible for that 30% tax credit. The maximum lease, at least with McClure, is 30 years. That's the life of, that's the warranty on a panel. So those panels have a warranty of 30 years. After that 30-year warranty, they'll still have some useful life. Manufacturers say these solar panels will be around for 40 years, but the maximum lease McClure offers is 30 years. So today we're going to give you options to kind of think about both. We're going to show you kind of the 2 bookend options, whether you buy the system outright or you lease it for that max of 30 years. You can buy that system out anywhere in between, but 30 years would be the max. If you look on the right-hand side of slide 4, you'll see one of our case studies was Steel and High Spire School District. This is urban semi-rural school district outside of Harrisburg. They installed this array in 2020. They leveraged the solar savings to pay for lighting upgrades and preventive maintenance, and overall are looking at a $3 million net savings over 20 years. So Steel didn't have any money to pay for solar up front. They were able to do this array, upgrade all their lighting to LED, and get maintenance for 15 years for their HVAC system, and still net close to $3 million over 20 years. So really great project. So what can we do for, if you want to turn to slide 5, for solar here at Keystone Central? What we did is we modeled 3 ground-mounted solar arrays. So each year, the district uses about 4.7 million kilowatt hours of energy at the majority of your buildings. So what we tried to do is create an array that would offset not only what you're using today, but what you may use in the future. So we're looking to offset about 110% of the district's annual usage at these sites by installing close to a 3.5 kilowatt array at 3 different areas. So you'll see, let's start at Central Mountain High School. You'll see the blue shaded area in the top right is a location where we are just kind of setting the array for today. What we would do is take down the trees, similar to the project we did at Mifflin County School District, put the arrays up and then interconnect to the utility. That array is about a 2.4 megawatt. That's large enough to offset not only the high school usage, but you can virtual meter at Central Mountain Middle School and Mill Hall Elementary. So the way virtual net metering works, as long as you're within 2 miles of a building that you own, as the crow flies, you can do what's called net meter. And really, it's just an accounting method on your PPL bill that allows you to take excess generated electricity and apply it to other buildings. The second location we're recommending is at Woodward Elementary. That's within 0.6 miles of Robb Elementary. So you'll be able to virtual meter Robb as well as offsetting all of Woodward. And that array is about 0.5 megawatt. And then lastly, we looked at installing an array at Bucktail High School and Renovo Elementary School campus. Again, another 0.5 megawatt size there that will offset both buildings. So I'll press pause. Any questions so far at the locations and kind of how net metering works?
Listen, the one on the Bucktail one, is that the red area there by,
It's actually
where is that located?
at the north of the center of the photo. It's
Oh,
hard to
okay.
see because of the trees, but that little
Okay,
blue
that-
area.
okay, I
Yeah,
see that.
right field off of that baseball field.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah. Good question. So these are just to give you an idea of the size of the array. When we further develop these projects, we can look at putting them in different locations, but at least gives you an idea of the size. Okay. All right, so let's look at the financials. So what the stage we're at is kind of back of the napkin, kind of desktop type of analysis. But we wanted to give you kind of, as I said before, the 2 bookends. So the most conservative bookend is to lease a system for 30 years. This will have the least amount of savings, but it's also the least amount of risk for the school district and the least amount of work. So when you lease a system, the IRS says whoever owns the system, in this case McClure, has to own, operate, and maintain it. Meaning that if anything goes wrong over those 30 years, McClure is responsible. Panel breaks, an inverter goes down, it's our responsibility to keep that up and running. So the only thing the district would be responsible in this lease situation is mowing around any ground mounted panels, just so that the grass doesn't grow above where the panel is. The panels sit about 3 feet off the ground, so mowing twice a year just to keep that grass down. We also recommend a certain type of grass seed that is slow growing. So let's look at the cash flow. We're going to work our way from left to right, starting with column 1. Column 1 represents the 30 years of the lease, so you can start to see what happens in each year, starting in year 1. Column 2 is the annual generation of the panels. So this is, as we said before, over 100% kilowatt hour production than you're currently using at those buildings. We are taking that number and degrading it 0.5% per year, because as solar panels, because they're exposed to the elements, are going to degrade about 0.5%. They're about 86% efficacy after 30 years, probably 84% after 40 years. So we want to make sure we're showing you that value. Column 2 is also guaranteed by McClure. So what happens is after a year, we check how many kilowatt hours were produced by the array versus what we predicted. We correct it for the number of sunny days based on how many sunny days there actually were versus what we assumed would be. And if there's a shortfall, McClure is responsible for the difference. So if we come up short, we pay you the difference. They take the kilowatt hours times the rate in the contract, and that goes into your pocket. So column 2 is guaranteed by McClure. That's not true of every solar company, but that is something that we offer our customers. Column 3 is what you pay PPL had you done nothing. So currently you're paying about a little over 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour per year. We're using a 3% escalator. If you look back over the Pennsylvania commercial electricity use or electricity rates the last 40 years, you'll see a 3.3% straight line increase. So we think 3% is pretty conservative number to use. Now, column 3, you'll see, so this would be if you did nothing. Now you'll continue to have a PPL bill. You'll still be taking energy from the grid at night when the solar arrays aren't producing. And then during the day when it's sunny, you're going to be pushing energy to the grid. So what happens is on your electricity bill, you're going to start to build a credit because you're going to produce more solar than you use. You start to build a credit. Every May, they issue a check for whatever credit is on your account. So that's how that will work. Column 4 is what you will pay McClure instead. So rather than having a column 3 bill, you'll pay McClure a power purchase agreement fee. This rate that you pay per kilowatt hour is fixed over the 30-year term. So you'll be able to budget against that in future years. McClure also includes maintenance in this number. So we maintain the panels. In year 15, we replace the inverters. The inverter is the component of the solar array that takes DC electricity and converts it to AC or alternating current electricity so your buildings can use it. This fee also includes the utility rebate that you're eligible for through PPL. It includes a 30% tax credit, includes annual depreciation and bonus depreciation, another taxable item that we can take credit for you. It also includes solar renewable energy credits that the district could receive. So McClure will take those solar renewable energy credits. They're kind of green energy credits that you can sell in the open marketplace. So some private companies have very high green energy goals and they're looking to buy green power. You can sell those credits on an open market. Those credits are per kW. They could be anywhere from 300, which they were in their heyday, probably around 10 years ago. Currently, they're sitting about $30 to $40 a credit. So in this case, McClure will take the risk on the solar renewable energy credits or SRECs, and we've already netted them off the cost of the PPA. If they go down tomorrow, McClure's at risk, but if they go up, McClure would benefit. So in this situation, McClure will own those credits, but they'll also hire the broker to take care of those credits. So again, taking that risk away from the district, but still taking it off the cost of solar. Column 5 is if you take column 3, subtract column 4, you get the net annual savings. So you'll see those savings grow over time. Column 6 shows you if you add those savings year to year, you'd be looking at about $7.5 million of savings for the district over the term of the PPA. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, so that's slide 6. The other, so slide 6 is PPA, power purchase agreement lease, $0 down. Now we'll look at slide 7. What would happen if you bought the array up front? So this is what's called the direct pay option. This is where you can own the solar array up front and start seeing those savings in your pocket on day 1. So again, we're going to move left to right from the columns. Column 1 is the year, again, years 1 through 30. When we build the solar array, we would do it under an energy contract, similar as the last 2 projects we've done with the district. This guarantees that you will see the kilowatt hours produced in column 2 are actually realized. So what happens is under a guaranteed energy savings agreement, if we say you'll save $1 million the first year, we come out and there's a shortfall, we owe the district the difference. So that's a really great way to ensure that your investment if you're making decisions based on return on investment, that you're seeing the return and guaranteeing those energy results. Column 2 is if you would do nothing, what you would pay PPL. It's the same as the last slide. Column 3 is now that you own the array, you would take advantage of the solar renewable energy credits. So those go in your pocket. In addition, you get that 30% tax credit. You'll see that showing up in year 1 in column 3. You get 30% the cost of the solar array that goes back in your pocket. Now we are showing that you take that investment tax credit and reinvesting it into the financing for the solar array. We recommend everybody do that to buy down the principal and interest. So column 4 shows that if you financed what we're estimating to be about a $9 million solar array at all 3 locations, if you add them all together, you'd be financing that at 4%. Your annual payments would be somewhere around $475,000 a year. Column 5 is what you would have to pay to maintain the solar array, as well as take out insurance. So these are high estimates for today's purposes. You can actually probably calculate that within your own business office, but we wanted to show that representation of what it's going to take to have the array on your campus. We show a jump in year 15, that's due to replacing inverters. We show another jump in year 30, that's the cost to decommission the system, about $174,000 allowance that we're putting in there. That's if you assume to take it off your site, take everything off, recycle the panels, and demo the panels. That's about the estimate there. Column 6 is the annual savings. So taking column 2 and 3 and subtracting column 4 and 5, this would go into your pocket. And then column 7 shows you the cumulative savings over the 20-year guarantee, which is around $6 million, and over the 30 years, which is closer to $14,580,000. So definitely more savings by owning it outright, but then a little bit more risk as well. It's more work for you as a district. So any questions looking those 2 options are kind of the bookends. You can do something in between, having a shorter lease. I would say most customers do power purchase agreements. We're working with Seattle High Spire in this way, Forest Area School District, Mifflin County School District. We're close to contract with a few others that done it through the power purchase agreement. But we've had a few do direct pay as well. Elizabethtown School District, Southern Columbia Area School District, we're just about to build, and East Lycoming School District all did the direct pay option. So.
Okay, Elizabeth, question.
Thank you so much. As you know, ever since I saw but when Alyssa was doing the presentation at the October conference. So I'm very excited. Thank you, Jeff or Dr. Redmond, whoever it is that set this up. Thank you so much for bringing your peers with you. I had just 2 quick questions, and maybe later on we can touch base on them. But one is Liberty Curtain. You didn't, and I understand it's under construction right now, but that's the beauty of it, is that we have yet to decide on the landscape plan. So right now there's no trees to come down. It's a blank slate. And I know we've been talking about potentially putting solar at Liberty Curtain ever since the conversation first arose. So, and now that the ground is open, the building doesn't have walls yet, you see the advantage of pre-planning that. So that's one question. And then I also want to let everyone know that I'm completely sold on solar. Is it perfect? No. But in today's world right now, today, so be that as it may, I'm a supporter. But my question is, I really, let's say hypothetically, McClure goes bankrupt in 15 years. Okay, now we don't want to see that happen, or McClure closes or whatever. How does that work in your contract? So you don't need to answer that right now, but that is a question I am going to ask if the other board members, we decide to take this another step with administration. So please just keep that in the back of your mind. I'd really appreciate it. And also, not that this is a priority right now, I'm jumping way far ahead. But, I had asked Alyssa, although it's not, you don't get as much, solar from panels that are installed on sidewalls. I asked her to, when she was able to come, or McClure was able to come, to let us know, have you any plans to look at that? So we're not taking up more square footage, taking down more trees? Is that something your company or has decided absolutely not, they don't want to go there? Placing the panels on the side of a building that, faces south or what have you.
Okay. All right. So, so Elizabeth, I'm going to do my best with all three questions.
I'm sorry.
Nope, you're great. So the first question, why no Liberty Curtain? And are we thinking about Liberty Curtain? The reason for no Liberty Curtain is because at the time that we were developing this analysis, that was under design. We weren't sure what would happen with that. In addition, that building is more than 2 miles from any other building. So it would be a dedicated site if you were ever to look at solar for that building. Wanted to be a little bit further along with your design process before we started to look at that building. So we'd be absolutely happy to look at it. But from a net metering perspective, because it's kind of standalone, we wanted to look at that building individually. Great question.
And I have a
Oh, go ahead.
If I heard you correctly, you said that the Woodward site was less than 2 miles from Liberty Curtain. Now you're saying Liberty Curtain.
Oh,
is
sorry,
not-
Rob Elementary.
Oh, Rob.
If I said Liberty Curtain, I
Well, I may
apologize.
have heard you wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay. So yeah, Rob and Woodward are close. The high school, middle school, and Mill Hall are close, and Bucktail and Renovo, of course, are on the same
I
site.
think one of the other pieces on Liberty Curtain is that's a First Energy school, and they have lower rates. So when we did some preliminary back of the napkin stuff, Liberty Curtain wasn't as good of an option as these other ones where we can be in PPNLs, and it was different multipliers, different discounts and stuff. So we had looked at those early on, and it was made more sense to stay in these areas where we had schools together and we could use the net metering and where we were paying higher rates.
The second question is if McClure dissolved. Do you have that answered, Dip? Okay, so Elizabeth, I'll have to get back to you on question 2. I'll get you the contract language, and that way I'm not fumbling through it. But I will say McClure's been around for 70 years. So our goal is to be around for the next 70 as well. In a direct pay option where you're buying the system outright, that's not as big a risk, right? Because you'll have payment and performance bond for the work. I'll have to get back to you if we would go out of business in the PPA option, what that means. So I will follow up with that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I definitely would like to see Liberty Curtain part of this package group, because what we see today in rates, and I appreciate what you said, Rob, I do. But what we see today and versus who may purchase that particular utility in the future, I don't know what's going to happen 10, 20, 30 years out in the road. We don't know. But I definitely think Liberty Curtain, because we do have to do the landscaping plan still, which we haven't started yet. It would be terrible if we ended up putting trees or whatnots in that one location and then, 5 years down the road, well, want to take them down. So I would really like to see it all together in one thing. And also, if we could put this on a PDF on boards docs, that would be lovely, your report, if it's okay with everybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and your last question, did we look at putting them on walls, exterior walls? We have not. That's something we could look at. The most cost-effective way to do solar, at least with your current layout, is to go ground mounted. When you start to put it on roofs, you have to look at providing reinforcement for the roof, how you ballast it to the roof, the age of roof. If you have a roof that's older than 30, who doesn't have a warranty for 30 years, putting a 30-year asset on something that has a less life doesn't always make a ton of sense, because when you have to replace the roof, now you're taking down panels. Carport solar, same thing. Now you're creating a structure to put solar panels on. That eats into your cost saving. So we're open to look at different arrangements for solar. We just, to start, went with ground mounted because it's most cost effective. Any other questions on the cash flows? If not, I'll just hit on the last few slides. Slide 8, we get asked a lot, are there any grant programs out there for solar? Currently, the Renew America's Classroom federal grant just reopened. That's due June 13th. This was a grant McClure assisted the district for applying last year. We submitted a concept paper. They accepted it. They asked us to submit a full application. We were not successful. Only one school district in the state was, but we learned a lot from that application process. So solar, as well as doing energy efficiency projects. For example, we went after the high school HVAC, are a really good grant to go after if you're considering solar. 2 programs to keep on your radar. House Bill 1032 is currently passed the House and is in the Senate. That would establish a grant program for 50% of off solar projects if you're buying them outright. So keep an eye on that Senate bill. I know they're trying, Elizabeth Fiedler and her office is trying to get that bill going in the Senate. Currently, it's not being funded by the current state budget. They're trying to get funding dollars for that to establish that grant program. The last one is the Alternative and Clean Energy Program. That hasn't been open for a number of years. We keep reaching out to DCED to see when it will reopen. They're hoping to get it funded and opened soon. So 2 programs will continue to keep a watch on with the state. Slide 9 is kind of solar next steps. So if you saw something in this presentation you'd like, and you'd like to get final costs and savings for solar arrays, the next step is to sign a letter of intent. And so what that letter says is that you'll work with McClure to develop final engineering to do costs and savings for solar at no cost to the district. The only time there would be a cost is if a specialized study would be required, and give you the heads up way in advance. We ask that while we're engineering this solution for you and working with local municipalities and utilities, that you don't work with another solar company during that time. We're going to be investing tens to hundred thousands of dollars of engineering fees. We just ask with no no charge to you guys. So we just ask that we walk into that as a partnership, that we deliver something that looks good to you guys, that you move forward. If when we deliver it, you don't want to move forward, that's okay too. There is no breakup fee associated with that letter. During that final design, we'll be going to state agencies, municipalities. We'll ask for any variances we need. Also work with the utility for interconnection and what those costs associated are. So that process can take a couple months, or it can take a lot of months depending on those approvals and what we need to get in line. But the goal would be to come back with final costs, final savings for board action. Once board action takes place, we can start to purchase the system, start to put in the solar field, but also work with the utility to get interconnection. Currently, PPL has about a year wait list. Once you say, yes, I want to do a solar project, until they connect you to the grid. So construction usually takes 3 to 6 months. That process can take up to a year too. So I just want to be upfront about timeline, so no one thinks we'll have solar ready to go tomorrow, as much as we'd want that. Just, this process can take, a year to 2 years to get up off the ground. And then once it's built, we start to monitor it. We'll have TV screens in all the lobbies of your school so that teachers can work it into their curriculum. We'll also start to watch it to make sure that the kilowatt hour productions we promise you are realized. So with that, I'll press pause and answer any questions you might have. Yes.
So
The
our-
estimates of whatever you want to call it, efficiency, energy production, whatever.
I'm sorry, would you sit a little closer to the mic,
I'm
please?
sorry, Elizabeth.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. It happens. Thank you.
The estimates of the efficiency, productivity, whatever you want to call it. Are they based on central Pennsylvania weather? Are they based on central Pennsylvania sunshine or Colorado sunshine?
Central PA, and I'll let Dip answer this one.
Yeah, so whenever we do the design for the solar array in the software that we use called Helioscope, it uses the weather data set closest to this location, which is typically through airports.
State College.
Probably State College for this area. We're probably using State College weather data set. And it's also utilizing December 21st as the shortest day of the year and providing the estimate for production on an annual basis. And we can also provide you, it breaks it down by the month as well, how much would be produced, and it's an estimate, and we also take it to the next level with another software called PVSys, where it gives you even more of an accurate reading once we get to a more of a final design for production estimates.
And you guys also guarantee those savings, just like we
Right.
did on, when we did some of the other ESCO stuff. So, and it's in that one column there, that the savings are a guaranteed saving.
Yes, we guarantee energy units, so kilowatt hours, and then we'd multiply it by rate to show the dollar savings. But the kilowatt hours, which are easily measured, is what McClure guarantees.
So from a budgetary standpoint, which we'll be talking about here in a little while, if I'm looking at this, the chart correctly, it would be costing us, whether we lease or buy the system, it's going to be costing us close to, at least initially, I know it's a fixed rate if we buy the system.
Right.
And if we don't, it would be an escalating cost, and that's what we would have to build into our budget every year. And-
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was correct. I mean, it's just, it would be a payment that we'd have to work in there, so. And I know, realize that that's against the savings that we would gain, but. So,
Yeah, column 3, we're taking a guess at what you're paying today and escalating at 3.3%. Or excuse me, 3%. Now, as I mentioned before, electricity goes up, it goes down, but if you draw a straight line over the last 40 years, it goes up 3.3%. So at 3%, we feel we're being somewhat conservative. That's probably the biggest risk against school districts, is if you think electricity is going to drop tomorrow and continue to go down in the next 30 years, that would be your risk of going solar. But if you look at historical numbers and what utility costs have done, this is a better way by using solar, is locking in what your rates are and knowing what they're going to be long-term. And that's really what a power purchase agreement does for you. It locks in your rate, whether you do a direct pay option and you're creating your own energy and selling it back to the grid. Again, you're just kind of minimizing your risk for future increases in electricity.
and you said most of the districts do that. They buy the system and don't, and instead of leasing.
I think we're 4 and 3 currently with the districts we're working with them. 4 do the long-term lease. They didn't want to be in the business of solar. They wanted someone else to handle that risk. We had a few districts that had cash or were borrowing or had money on hand where it made sense for them to buy it up front. I know East Lycoming, when they did theirs, they got a large grant through the PETA grant, if you remember that program a couple years back. So that heavily subsidized it. Elizabethtown was doing a huge renovation at the time, so they took out extra money to put the array there. And then the 3rd district that did it, Southern Columbia Area School District, which is currently under contract and we're building now. They were going to use the tax credit, but also borrow the balance. So it was just something that they really felt strongly about, that they wanted to own the system.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have another question. If we choose to lease this from you at the end of life, do you dispose of the outdated panels?
Great question. I'm sorry to hit on that. That's usually something I hit on. So after 30 years, the way it's written in the contract is McClure will take everything from the ground up off of the site at our own cost. So that number is already in that PPA value that you see in front of you. Now, we will give districts the option in year 30 that if you don't want us to take it off your site, we'll both sign a letter that says it's okay for us to abandon it in place. So instead of us taking off the site, we will abandon it and it will become the district's asset. So not something you have to decide today. We have 30 years. You can kind of see how the solar array is doing, what technology you have available. But for now, any risk of taking that solar array off site, the cost of disposal, that's all on McClure.
Thank you.
Yep, great question.
Elizabeth? Go ahead.
There we go. Thank you. And this is jumping ahead again. we have a incredible CTC program, and I know they're really working towards 21st century things. And I'm sure other school districts have asked you this exact same question. Do you have or have you partnered with them to develop any sort of template for curriculum? Do the students who are working or interested in solar, is there any interaction, or is that something McClure absolutely doesn't go there?
We are open to it. So for the curriculum enhancement, there's a lot of websites we can direct you towards out there of using live data to involve it back into the curriculum for any grade level. In addition, a part of our last Renew America grant that we filled out, we spoke about a potential mentorship program, getting students that are interested in this process involved from design to installation to validating the energy savings on the back end. So that's something that we are completely open and would love to do and give back to the community if we could get students involved.
Anything else?
Just wanted to
Any
add
other-
one thing. During our analysis, we did see that the school district is under a electricity supplier contract until the end of December 2025. So it looks like you would be paying this 11.5 cent rate until the end of next year. So if you do happen to start shopping at some point, just let us know. We can kind of update our cash flows and that would give us guidance on what you may be paying in the future as well. But what we would be paying, you'd be paying McClure less than what you'd be paying on the market. And we'd be locking that in for 30 years.
Are there any other questions from any of the group here today? All right, if not, thank you very much
Thank you.
for being here with us, making the trip up from down in Harrisburg to join us. At least you had a pretty nice day to drive. So I thank you for all this information. We will take it under consideration and discuss what we may want to do with it in the future. Thanks
Thank you,
for,
Alyssa.
thank you. All right. Moving ahead. Next two items on here are dealing with the two change orders for Liberty Curtain. And first one, I guess, deals with this sand filter tank. Maybe, Rob, you can give us a little.
All right, I'm just bringing the finalized change orders to you. I've worked through with the contractors and everything. Although I did give the verbal approval after meeting with the committee, I don't know, a few weeks ago or what have you. Now the final change order will come forward and you'll actually approve the change order at the board level. The one change order is in the amount of $11,333.91. I believe that was 11,000. Yes, I'm sorry. That's to remove the sand filter, take it off site, or bust it up, take it off site. The second change order, let me get it open here. It was around $1,000, and that's just for them removing to have Feaster remove this the soil that was contaminated with oil. That soil will be disposed of at Wayne County or Wayne Township landfill, I believe, working with the environmental consultant. That's where they think they can take it. I don't have the number on that. That'll be paid out of the general fund for that soil. So the two change orders we have right now are the $11,331.91, and then the second change order is $1,224.11. You'll see those on the board agenda for the April board meeting.
Okay, I know there have been extensive discussions on these two change orders in the last couple of weeks. So I think that everybody should be well aware that what they were and should even have a pretty good idea of what they, how much they were cost wise too. So that being said, is there any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just want to have something clarified for me, please. I don't understand. What's a 35% labor burden and a 15% labor HOP?
It's all stuff that's built into the original contract documents that we're required to pay for change orders. That language is spelled out pretty clear in the contract docs. And it's basically like their inflation factors and those sort of things they have in the contract. We don't have a choice when we can't, they're not negotiable or whatever. It's in the contract documents of the original contract we signed.
Any other questions related to the two change order items? While we're on Liberty Curtain, is there anything
Yes,
they were different up there that we should be aware of?
well, I guess I'll provide a little bit of an update. We just left our job conference. The classroom sections have all the footers poured with the blocks coming up out of the ground. The slabs for the classroom sections, I think it's B and C classroom sections, those slabs will be poured on the 10th and the 17th. So by the time we have our next board meeting, voting meeting, most of the slabs for the classroom sections will be poured and they'll be coming out of the ground. We looked at some mock-ups of the brick. Everything's really proceeding along very nicely. You have other stuff you want to? Frank was there this morning.
Yeah, those are the big things there. The 10th and the 17th. Looking at the timing, as you know, we weren't able to get the permits quite as soon as we wanted to, but we had more of a discussion about their anticipated completion date and when we can get in there to install equipment and everything. And it still looks like we're on track to be able to start the school year as we had plans, not this next year, but the year after in the new building.
So, yeah, that's important. I'm glad to hear we're still on schedule. So that's good. So,
I do want to talk about two potential change orders that are looming out there. The first one will be, I've asked for a number and I have it, I just got it at the job meeting, approximately $3,600 to move a sewer line outside to where our compactor is. We pay a high rate for garbage up there, almost double what we pay in the Clinton County. Center County is a little more expensive. I've asked that we have a sewer line out near the compactor so that we can get rid of water out of the compactor so we're not paying water weight. They're finalizing that number, but it's right in the relative area of $3,600. So you may see that change order coming forward. And then we found an old building that was underground out there where there's some wood and stuff in the ground. And we may have to dispose of that wood material. I'm working through that. I'm watching that one to see where it is. But if it's substandard soil, because we elected to take the unclassified digging, we may have we may incur some cost to get rid of that wood. It was buried about 8 feet under the ground. I think what they did is it must have been a building there before they built the original building. They pushed all the wood down into the ground, and then when they built the new building, they put additional soil over top of it. So it's right in the area. It's outside of the footprint of the building, but it's the area of the road where they have to run the bricks and the blocks around. And it's a definite soft spot. So we're looking at how we can address that.
give you kind of a ballpark.
Nah, we don't know how much stuff is there, and we don't know how much I do see that it's right in line with all of our, I call it yard piping for the drain systems that are growing around the building. But we don't know how much stuff is in there and how much we're going to have to remove to get so we can compact that area. But I don't think it's a major. I don't think it's anything major. It looks like it could have been an old chicken coop. an outbuilding of some type, and I see plywood and 2x4s and all that stuff. And we have to make a decision if we're gonna clean it up or we're gonna be able to work around it. So I'm working through that one, but just want to make the committee aware that I'm watching that piece.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry, thank you. What I'm about to say is not helpful. It may come across as unkind, which I don't want it to be. But I just want to make sure, especially with a new superintendent here, for the record, I mentioned repeatedly, month after month after month after month, multiple potential things that might cost the district more money. And finally, it was decided that, yes, we're going to do an entire environmental assessment for this site. And that's the last I heard of it. And shame on me for not reading the contract, every little nook and cranny. But, you know, technically, as far as I'm concerned, all of these things that keep coming up in a true professionally done environmental assessment prior to a build is unacceptable. So I don't want to sit there and point any fingers to the company that was hired to do it, because I step back because, you know, board members, we step back. That's what I keep being told what to do. So I'm very disappointed. And again, I'm not pointing any fingers, but this is building 101, a full environmental assessment before you put a shovel in the ground. So again, not helpful, but if we have to do an environmental assessment again, a real one, let us know now, so we don't have any more of this. As far as I'm concerned, this is it, right? I mean, this is it. Otherwise, we do another assessment, a real assessment. So I'm sorry we're going through this, but it's unacceptable. So, but moving forward.
Okay. Anything else before we move on to the next item about the grant match requirements? Okay. This is involving the grants that a lot of the PCCDs, the Act 34 grants that we're going to be applying for, and some required matches, dollar matches that we have to come up with. So, and this will be discussed at the next meeting too. But I think Joni wants to make us aware of what we're looking at dollar wise and where those dollars are coming from. So I will turn it over to her. Want to give us a little explanation of that?
Okay, the majority of these are the PCCD grants. We actually did receive the meritorious grant for $45,000 for the digital radios. We were already informed that we received that money. So that's a great start. The next one is a combination of both the school district and the CTC for the key swipe system. So that is the actual next two. That would cover 4 elementary schools, the high school, and CTC for those amounts, the 450,000 and the 377,000. The next 2 grants are again a combination of the school district and CTC, and that's the mental health grant. And what that would cover would be 5 behavior interventionists, a school psychologist, curriculum and professional development for staff, district-wide trauma professional development, a stipend for the lead nurse and counselor, and that kind of covers the school district portion of that. In addition, the CTC grant funding would be for an additional behavior specialist and a CTE counselor. So that kind of encompasses all the PCCD grants. The next grant is one that we've discussed, again, the Act 34 DCED CFA grant. That is that public school facility improvement grant that is due on May 31st, I believe. We do have a quote from McClure, and that's what we're going to use when we submit the grant, is McClure's grant or McClure's proposal, and it is for about 8.7. With that is a 25% match that we have to commit. The board has to approve to commit that, which was the 2,197,622. So we need to commit some of our unassigned fund balance and commit it to a grant match. So we'll talk about that in the finance committee, but just so that everyone's aware, you'll see that number again. We will go out and receive, we hope to receive 2 additional ESCO proposals. And, you know, that number then may drop, the entire grant may drop, and then the additional 25% match. You know, we don't know until we receive any kind of proposal back.
Just real quick, point of clarity, you said it was a quote, but it's actually an estimate. We don't have a hard quote. from
Okay.
Clear.
I guess maybe I said proposal, but yes, yes.
It's just an
proposal.
estimate.
Perfect. Perfect. So that is the, you know, grants. We're out there looking for additional ones as well, but these are the ones we've actually applied for and will be. Any questions?
I think we'll talk more about that. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I just want to thank you all for doing all of this work. And also, I'm not asking anyone to do this or anything, but I'm just saying the preventative costs of doing these things will probably save, of course, I don't know for sure, but it will most likely will save the district money over the long term. We're going to make our schools safer, which means we may not have as many incidences, which means we're saving money again. And we're possibly helping staff, students with any preventative things that we need to do, which again, down the road, it might cost the district or society more money. So I think this is wonderful. I deeply appreciate everything you put into this. So I support it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think hopefully we can get these PCCD things in, all of them. So,
We did not receive, 2 years ago, we received PCCD money, but we did not receive any last year. So I'm hoping this year that's looked upon as something positive, that we might be, you know, more competitive and eligible this year.
okay, well, it might work in our favor, hopefully.
I'm hoping.
All right, any questions on any of the grant, that grant information? Okay. If there are none, that's all we have on the agenda unless there's something else somebody would like to discuss. How did I know? Go ahead.
I know this isn't on the agenda, but I would like to make a request, though, that the committee administration consider that this the committee meets during the summer, maybe 1 month out of those times that we're not meeting, because we were told when the first contract came out for Liberty Curtain, there was not a box in the landscaping section. And Dr. Martin said to us, well, that will be planned out later. Whatever later means. I don't know what later means. So I would like that to be discussions start to happen. So at some point, which I'm sort of assuming it should happen and be finalized before the end of the summer. So that's my request. Thank you.
I don't recall the conversation when we didn't check that box. My assumption is that a lot of the landscaping has been bid into the project, but I will double check with Crabtree on that to find out. I know like the seating and some of that. I thought the stuff that the landscaping as far as for the playgrounds was the stuff that we were going to discuss, but I don't know. I'm not 100% on that, so I'll have to ask that question. I
Thank
thought
you so much.
the playground piece was what was left. I think as far as like seating, you know, tree placement and all that had to be in for the code submission. And I think that stuff's in, so.
Okay, no, but I remember very distinctly Dr. Martin saying that, no, it wasn't part of this contract. We will design and plan that later. I knew that so please, thank you so much. Look into it and then give us an update would be really helpful. So we're on the same page.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the stuff for the playground is what wasn't designed in. And I think that's what she was referring to, but I'll I'll double check with that with Jeff. And Jeff has also offered from Crabtree to come to a board meeting within the next month or so to provide some updates for questions that the board may have. So I was going to talk with Dr. Redmond and Jeff on that to find out when a good time would be for that.
Yeah, I think that would be good, especially at this point where things are moving along pretty well. He can bring us up to speed on what we have done and what we expect to going on in the next few months, and just to give us a update. So, yep, we'll figure out when that's best to do. So, all right. Anything else? If not, I think we can call this meeting adjourned, and
Thank you.
yeah, the next meeting will start in 35 minutes at 3 o'clock.
Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you all very much.
Mhm.